Pay attention to the security camera footage. December 2021. A hospice care facility hallway. The camera captures a corridor. A nurse in scrubs exits a patient room. Behind her, an elderly woman using a walker follows. They move into the hallway. The elderly woman stops. The nurse turns around. They embrace. The elderly woman is crying. Her shoulders shake. The nurse holds her. The clip runs for 6 seconds. Then it ends. That's all it shows. An embrace. An elderly woman crying. A nurse comforting her. 6 seconds. This moment will become the center of a murder case. Because 4 years later, the nurse in that video will be found dead in the mountains of Wyoming. And the elderly woman's children will claim this footage proves manipulation, proves fraud, proves their mother was being exploited. But what this footage actually shows is something simpler: gratitude, connection. And the reason a dying woman chose to leave $9.4 million to the person who cared for her over the family who abandoned her. If you're already gripped by this story, hit that subscribe button right now. You won't believe where this goes. April 22nd, 2025, 7:48 a.m. Teton Canyon, Wyoming. A hiker on a trail in the Teton Mountains finds a body off the path. Female, mid-50s. The hiker calls 911. Sheriff's deputies arrive by 8:20 a.m. They identify the victim as Melody Harper, 54 years old, a hospice nurse who lived in Jackson. Single gunshot wound to the back of the head. Execution style. The body has been there for less than 24 hours. Her car is found 2 miles away, abandoned on a logging road. Her purse, phone, and wallet are still in the vehicle. Her jewelry is still on her body. Wedding ring from a previous marriage. Watch. This wasn't a robbery. This was an execution. The investigation begins immediately. To understand who killed Melody Harper and why, you need to know who she was and who she cared for. Starting with Melody. Melody Harper, 54 years old in 2025, born and raised in rural Wyoming. Grew up on a ranch outside Sheridan. Wanted to be a nurse from a young age. Put herself through nursing school, working 2 jobs. Graduated in 1997. Spent her 20s working in hospital settings, ICU, emergency, high-stress environments. By her mid-30s, she was burned out. In 2007, she transitioned to hospice care. It was a better fit, slower pace, more meaningful interactions with patients. Melody was known for her compassion, her patience, her ability to make people feel seen in their final months. She worked for a hospice agency in Jackson. The agency sent her to patients' homes. She provided in-home care for terminal patients, pain management, comfort care, emotional support. Melody was good at her job. Patients requested her specifically. Families trusted her. She wasn't just a nurse. She was a presence, a constant during the worst time in people's lives. In 2008, Melody was assigned to a new patient, Margaret Whitmore, a 69-year-old woman who had just been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. Margaret lived in a large home on the outskirts of Jackson. Wealthy, her late husband, Harrison, had been a successful real estate developer. He died in 2007, left Margaret with a fortune estimated at $10.5 million. Margaret had 2 adult children, a son and a daughter. Both lived out of state. Both had their own careers, their own families. Margaret's prognosis was uncertain. The cancer had spread to her lymph nodes. Treatment would be aggressive: chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. The hospice agency sent Melody to provide supportive care during treatment. Melody visited Margaret 3 times a week, helped with medication side effects, monitored symptoms, provided companionship during the hardest days. Margaret and Melody connected immediately. Margaret appreciated Melody's calm demeanor, her honesty. Melody didn't sugarcoat the reality of the disease, but she also didn't make Margaret feel hopeless. They talked about life, about Margaret's late husband, about her children, about regrets and gratitude. Over the months, they became close, not just nurse and patient, friends. By early 2009, Margaret's cancer went into remission. The tumors had shrunk. Scans were clear. She didn't need hospice care anymore. Melody's assignment ended, but Margaret and Melody stayed in touch. They exchanged phone calls, occasional visits. Margaret considered Melody a friend, someone who had been there during the darkest time. 3 years later, in 2011, Margaret's cancer returned. The breast cancer had metastasized, spread to her bones. The doctor said treatment could extend her life, but wouldn't cure her. Margaret called the hospice agency, asked for Melody specifically. Melody was assigned to her again. This time the care was more intensive. Margaret was in more pain, weaker. Melody came 4 times a week, sometimes 5. She managed Margaret's pain medication, helped her with daily tasks, sat with her during the worst days. Margaret's children visited occasionally. Her son Nathan came twice that year. Her daughter, Cassandra, came once. They were busy. Nathan was a corporate attorney in Denver. Cassandra was a senior executive at a tech company in San Francisco. They had demanding jobs, young children. They couldn't drop everything to care for their mother. That's what they told themselves. That's what they told Margaret. Melody was there. That was enough. By 2012, Margaret's cancer stabilized. With treatment, the progression slowed. She wasn't in remission, but she wasn't declining rapidly either. She lived in a kind of stasis, managing the disease, living with it. Melody continued visiting. Even though Margaret wasn't actively dying, she still needed support. Melody came twice a week, helped with appointments, with prescriptions, with the emotional weight of living with terminal illness. Margaret's children visited a few times a year, holidays, birthdays, brief visits, always rushed, always apologizing for not staying longer. Don't go anywhere. This story takes a dark turn you won't see coming. Make sure you're subscribed. In 2017, Margaret's condition worsened. The cancer had spread to her liver, her lungs. The doctors said she had maybe 2 years. Margaret was 78. She'd been living with cancer for 11 years. She was tired, but she wasn't ready to give up. Melody resumed more intensive care, 4 to 5 visits per week. Margaret was now on full palliative care. The goal was comfort, quality of life, dignity. Melody provided that. For the next 8 years, from 2017 to 2025, Melody visited Margaret over 2,000 times, helped her through pain, through fear, through loneliness. Margaret's children visited maybe 5 or 6 times a year. Nathan came for Christmas and Margaret's birthday. Cassandra came for Thanksgiving if her schedule allowed. They called occasionally, but they weren't there. Melody was. By 2025, Margaret had been living with cancer for 19 years. Melody had been part of her life for all of it. Over that time, Melody had visited Margaret more than 2,400 times. Margaret's children had visited maybe 55 times total. The contrast was stark, and Margaret noticed. She told Melody more than once that Melody felt more like family than her own children. Melody always deflected, said she was just doing her job. But it was more than that, and both of them knew it. Now, the second person you need to know is Margaret Whitmore, 69 in 2008, 86 when she died in January 2025. Margaret came from money. Her father owned a chain of hardware stores across Wyoming. She married Harrison Whitmore in 1965. Harrison was ambitious, built a real estate development company from nothing. By the 1990s, he was one of the wealthiest men in Wyoming. They had 2 children, Nathan in 1965, Cassandra in 1968. Margaret was a devoted mother when the kids were young, but as they grew up and moved away, her world shrank. Harrison worked constantly. She spent her time at charity events, book clubs, garden parties. When Harrison died in 2007, Margaret was devastated. They'd been married 42 years. She inherited everything. $10.5 million, the house, investment properties, but she was alone. Her children had their own lives. She understood, but it hurt. When the cancer came, it made the loneliness worse. She needed help. She needed someone, and that someone was Melody. Margaret wasn't naive. She knew Melody was paid to be there. But over the years, she saw that Melody cared beyond the paycheck. Melody came even when her shift was over, brought flowers on Margaret's birthday, remembered details about Margaret's life, asked about her late husband, her grandchildren. Melody listened, and that meant everything. By 2022, Margaret had been living with cancer for 16 years. She'd outlived every prognosis, but she knew her time was limited. She started thinking about her legacy, about who had truly been there, and she made a decision. The third and fourth people you need to know are Nathan Richardson and Cassandra Phillips, Margaret's children. Nathan was 60 years old in 2025, a partner at a corporate law firm in Denver, specialized in mergers and acquisitions, made over $600,000 a year, married, 3 kids, lived in a mansion in Cherry Hills. Nathan visited his mother 2 or 3 times a year. Christmas, her birthday, maybe one other time if he was in Wyoming for work. He called her every few weeks. The conversations were short, surface level. He loved his mother, but he was busy. He assumed she understood. Cassandra was 57 in 2025. Senior vice president at a tech company in San Francisco, oversaw a team of 250 employees, made just under $1.2 million a year, including stock options, divorced, 2 kids. Cassandra visited her mother even less than Nathan, maybe once or twice a year. She called once a month. Cassandra felt guilty, but not guilty enough to change her behavior. She told herself her mother had help. She had Melody. Cassandra sent money occasionally. Expensive gifts. She thought that was enough. Both Nathan and Cassandra knew Melody existed. They'd met her a few times over the years. They were grateful someone was taking care of their mother. It freed them from the responsibility. They never thought much about it, never thought about what it meant that a stranger was spending more time with their mother than they were. Not until it was too late. In December 2022, Margaret called her attorney, not Nathan, a private attorney she'd worked with for years. She told him she wanted to update her will. The attorney came to her home. Margaret was lucid, clear-minded. She explained what she wanted. Her old will left everything split evenly between Nathan and Cassandra, $5.25 million each. The new will was different. Nathan would get $550,000. Cassandra would get $550,000. The remaining $9.4 million would go to Melody Harper, her nurse. The attorney asked if she was sure. Margaret said she'd never been more sure. She explained that Melody had been there for her for 16 years through multiple cancer occurrences, through over 2,200 visits. Her children had visited maybe 45 times in 16 years. Melody had earned it. The attorney asked if Margaret wanted to tell her children. Margaret said no. She wanted them to find out after she was gone. She wanted them to understand what they'd lost by not being there. The will was signed, witnessed, legally binding. Margaret told the attorney to keep it confidential until her death. 3 independent doctors evaluated Margaret's mental competency before she signed. All confirmed she was lucid, capable of making informed decisions. No signs of cognitive impairment. If this story is gripping you, hit that like button. It's about to get even more intense. Margaret lived for 2 more years. The cancer progressed slowly. Melody continued her care, 5 visits a week by 2024. Margaret was better than most of the time in pain, but Melody kept her comfortable. In January 2025, Margaret's condition deteriorated rapidly. Melody was with her almost every day that final week. On January 16th, Margaret died peacefully in her sleep. Melody was in the room, holding her hand. Nathan and Cassandra were notified. They flew in for the funeral. It was a small service. Melody attended, sat in the back, didn't speak to the family. She grieved quietly. She'd lost someone she cared about deeply. 2 weeks later, the attorney called Nathan and Cassandra for the reading of the will. They assumed it would be straightforward, split everything 50-50ths. The attorney read the will aloud. Nathan and Cassandra sat in stunned silence. $550,000 each. $9.4 million to Melody Harper. They couldn't believe it. Nathan was the first to speak. He asked if there was a mistake. The attorney said no. The will was clear, legally sound. Margaret had been evaluated by 3 doctors before signing. All confirmed she was mentally competent. Cassandra asked who Melody Harper was. The attorney reminded them, their mother's nurse. Cassandra's face went red. She said this was insane. Their mother had been manipulated. Nathan agreed, said they'd contest the will. The attorney warned them. Contesting would be expensive, difficult. Margaret had taken every precaution to ensure the will was bulletproof. But Nathan and Cassandra didn't care. This wasn't about the money, they said. It was about protecting their mother's legacy, about stopping someone who had taken advantage of a vulnerable woman. The estate entered probate, standard process, even uncontested. Probate in Wyoming takes 60 to 90 days before assets can be distributed. Nathan and Cassandra filed a formal challenge. This extended the timeline, froze the assets. No one could receive anything until the court ruled on the validity of the will. Nathan and Cassandra hired a private investigator, told him find anything he could on Melody Harper, anything that would prove manipulation, fraud, undue influence. The investigator dug. He found nothing incriminating. Melody had no criminal record, no history of financial impropriety. She was a hospice nurse who had cared for Margaret for 19 years. The investigator accessed the hospice facility's archived security footage. He found the clip from December 2021. The hallway embrace, the crying. He showed it to Nathan and Cassandra. They watched it, and they saw what they wanted to see. Nathan said it was proof. Look at how their mother is crying. She's vulnerable, emotional. Melody is manipulating her, building dependence. Cassandra agreed, said this was grooming. Melody had been grooming their mother for years, isolating her from her real family. The investigator cautioned them, said the footage could be interpreted differently. But Nathan and Cassandra didn't want to hear it. They took the clip, submitted it as evidence in their legal challenge, claimed it showed a pattern of emotional manipulation. The case went to probate court in March 2025. Nathan and Cassandra's attorney presented the footage, argued it showed Melody exploiting Margaret's vulnerability. Melody's attorney countered, called in psychologists, geriatric specialists. They reviewed the footage. All of them said the same thing. This isn't manipulation. This is gratitude. This is a patient expressing appreciation for years of compassionate care. The embrace is mutual, consensual. There's no sign of coercion. One psychologist pointed out that Margaret initiated the hug. She reached out first. That's not consistent with someone being manipulated. The attorney also presented Margaret's medical records, showed that 3 independent doctors had evaluated her mental competency before she signed the will. All 3 confirmed she was lucid, understood what she was doing, had no cognitive impairment. The judge reviewed everything. On April 5, 2025, the judge ruled the will was valid. Margaret had been competent. The distribution of assets would proceed as written. Nathan and Cassandra's challenge was denied. The estate would remain in probate for final processing. Assets would be distributed within 30 to 45 days. By mid-May, Melody would receive the $9.4 million. The footage was shown on local news. The story went viral regionally. Headlines read, "Children contest mothers will after she leaves fortune to nurse." Public opinion was split. Some sympathized with Nathan and Cassandra, said it was suspicious. Others pointed out the math. Over 2,200 visits versus 55. Melody had been there. They hadn't. Nathan and Cassandra were humiliated. Their names were in the press, their reputations damaged, and they'd lost. Within weeks, Melody would be a millionaire. Nathan and Cassandra couldn't accept it. Nathan knew the timeline. He'd worked in estate law early in his career. Once the judge validated the will, the clock was ticking. The estate administrator would finalize asset transfers within 45 days. After that, the money would legally belong to Melody. If she died before the transfer completed, it would complicate everything. Heirs, probate, reopening delays, maybe even ground to challenge again. But if Melody died after the money was transferred, it was over. Her heirs would inherit. Nathan and Cassandra would never see a dime. They had maybe 4 weeks. That's it. 4 weeks to act. Subscribe now if you want to see how far greed will push people. This gets dark. In early April 2025, Nathan and Cassandra met privately. No lawyers, no spouses, just the 2 of them. They discussed options. Legal avenues were exhausted, but there was another way. If Melody died before the estate transferred the funds, everything would freeze again. Uncertainty, chaos. Maybe they could argue the will was invalid due to suspicious circumstances surrounding Melody's death. Maybe they'd get another chance. It was desperate. It was insane. But they were out of options. Nathan knew people through his law firm. He'd interacted with clients who operated in gray areas. He made a call. Within a week, he'd arranged a meeting with someone who could make problems disappear. The price was $60,000 cash. Nathan and Cassandra split it. They provided Melody's address, her schedule, her routines. The job was set for mid-April before the money transferred. April 21st, 2025, evening. Melody finishes her shift at the hospice facility, drives home to her small house on the edge of Jackson. She's tired, emotionally drained. She's been grieving Margaret, processing the trial, the accusations, the media coverage. She pulls into her driveway around 8:15 p.m., gets out of her car. A man is waiting in the shadows. He's wearing dark clothing, gloves, mask. He approaches quickly, says nothing. Melody turns, sees him, starts to speak. The man raises a gun, fires once. Back of the head. Melody drops instantly. The man checks for a pulse. She's dead. He drags her body to a vehicle parked nearby, drives into the mountains, takes her to Teton Canyon, a remote area where hikers rarely go this time of year. He leaves the body off a trail. No attempt to hide it extensively. No attempt to stage a scene. It's an execution. Clean, simple. He drives back, abandons Melody's car on a logging road, leaves her purse and phone inside, makes it look like she pulled over for some reason. Then he disappears. He's gone by midnight. The next morning, a hiker finds a body. The investigation moves quickly. Detectives notice immediately this isn't random. Execution-style killing. Body dumped in remote location, but no robbery, no sexual assault. This is professional. They start with people who had motive. Melody's family is interviewed. She had a younger sister in Sheridan. They were close but had no conflicts. Melody's ex-husband lives in Oregon. Hasn't seen her in years. No motive. Then detectives learn about the will, about Nathan and Cassandra, about the trial, about the timing. The court ruled on April 5th. Melody was killed on April 21st, 2 weeks later, right before the state would finalize the transfer. Detectives pull financial records. Nathan withdrew $30,000 in cash on April 7th, 2 days after losing in court. Cassandra withdrew $30,000 on April 8th. Both claim the withdrawals were for business expenses. Neither can provide documentation. Detectives pull phone records. Nathan's phone shows a call to a burner number on April 9th. The call lasted 2 minutes. Nathan claims he doesn't remember making it. Must have been a wrong number. Cassandra's phone shows text messages to Nathan in the days before the murder. Encrypted messaging app. The messages are vague but suspicious. References to taking care of the problem, to making sure things don't go through. Detectives get warrants, search Nathan's home in Denver, Cassandra's home in San Francisco. They find more burner phones, more encrypted messages. Nathan's messages reference a contact, someone who could handle a job, the payment, the timeline. Cassandra's messages show she knew, approved, coordinated. Detectives track the burner number Nathan called. It's registered to a known criminal with ties to contract violence. The man's name is in a federal database. He has priors for assault, weapons charges. He's currently on probation. Detectives bring him in. He lawyers up immediately, but his financials tell the story. A deposit of $60,000 on April 22nd, the day after Melody's murder. The money came from an offshore account. Detectives trace it. It connects to a shell company. The company has ties to one of Nathan's corporate clients. The web is unraveling. The hired killer cuts a deal, testifies against Nathan and Cassandra in exchange for a reduced sentence. He admits everything. Says Nathan contacted him through an intermediary, paid him half upfront, half after, provided Melody's information, her address, her routine. The killer says Cassandra was involved. She approved the payment. Both of them wanted Melody dead before the money transferred. Nathan and Cassandra are arrested on April 28th. The arrests are coordinated, public, deliberate. Detectives want the perp walk, want the optics. Nathan is arrested at his law firm in Denver. Mid-morning, he's in a meeting with senior partners and clients. 3 FBI agents walk in. Flash badges tell him he's under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and first-degree murder. Nathan stands, tries to maintain composure. They cuff him in front of everyone, his colleagues, his clients, the people he's worked with for 22 years. They walk him out through the lobby. News cameras are waiting outside. The footage airs that evening. Prominent attorney arrested for murder for hire. His face is everywhere. Cassandra is arrested at her office in San Francisco. She's in a boardroom giving a quarterly presentation to the executive team. San Francisco PD walks in with FBI agents, interrupts the meeting, reads her rights in front of the entire board, cuffs her in front of 17 executives. She's escorted out. Security footage from the building is leaked online within hours, goes viral. The humiliation is complete. Both of their careers are over. Nathan is disbarred within days. Cassandra is terminated immediately. Their reputations destroyed, and the case hasn't even gone to trial yet. If this story is making your blood boil, you're not alone. Drop a comment and let us know what you think these two deserve. The trial begins in October 2025. The prosecution's case is overwhelming. The evidence includes financial records showing the cash withdrawals, phone records linking Nathan to the hired killer, text messages discussing the plan, the killer's testimony describing the job in detail, and security footage from December 2021, the same footage Nathan and Cassandra used to try to prove manipulation. The prosecution shows it again, but this time they use it to prove motive. They argue that Nathan and Cassandra saw this moment of love and compassion and interpreted it as manipulation because they couldn't accept that their mother loved someone else more than them, that their jealousy and greed blinded them, that they killed Melody not because she manipulated their mother, but because she cared for their mother when they didn't. The footage that Nathan and Cassandra thought would save them becomes the evidence that condemns them. The defense tries to argue desperation, that Nathan and Cassandra believed Melody had manipulated their mother, that their actions, while wrong, were driven by genuine belief they were protecting their mother's legacy. But the jury doesn't buy it. The evidence of premeditation is too clear. The encrypted messages, the cash payments, the coordination with a hired killer, the timing, everything points to calculated murder for financial gain. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury returns guilty on all counts. Nathan is convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Cassandra is convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and accessory to murder. Sentencing comes a month later. Nathan gets life without parole. Cassandra gets 45 years. Earliest possibility of parole in 2070. She'll be 102 years old. Under Wyoming's Slayer statute, neither Nathan nor Cassandra can inherit anything from Margaret's estate due to their convictions. The $550,000 each was supposed to receive is forfeited. The entire estate, all $10.5 million after legal fees, would have gone to Melody, but Melody is dead. The estate administrator determines that since Melody died before the funds were transferred, her inheritance passes to her designated beneficiaries. Melody had named her younger sister as her sole beneficiary years earlier. The sister, a school teacher in Sheridan, inherits the $9.4 million. She's shocked, overwhelmed. She uses $2.5 million to establish a fund in Melody's name, the Melody Harper Compassionate Care Scholarship. It provides full tuition for nursing students who want to work in hospice and palliative care. The rest she invests, lives modestly, honors her sister's memory by supporting the kind of work Melody dedicated her life to. Nathan and Cassandra lose everything. Their careers, their reputations, their freedom, the money they killed for. The irony is absolute. They visited their mother 55 times in 19 years. Melody visited over 2,400 times. Their mother recognized that, rewarded it. And when Nathan and Cassandra couldn't accept it, they committed murder and got nothing. Worse than nothing. They lost their lives, their families, everything. Melody Harper was 54 years old. She spent 19 years caring for a woman who wasn't her family, who didn't owe her anything beyond a paycheck. But Melody gave more than what was required. She gave her time, her compassion, her presence. And a dying woman recognized that, chose to honor it. Nathan and Cassandra saw that recognition as theft, as manipulation, because they couldn't accept that presence matters more than blood, that showing up matters more than sharing DNA. And their refusal to accept that truth cost them everything. This case is a reminder that relationships require effort, that love requires presence, that you can't expect to be valued if you're never there. Margaret didn't leave her fortune to Melody because she was manipulated. She left it to Melody because Melody earned it. Through 19 years of showing up, of being present, of caring when no one else did, Nathan and Cassandra thought they were entitled to their mother's money because they were her children. But Margaret's will was her final statement. Biology doesn't equal devotion. Presence does. And Melody was present for 19 years. That mattered more than any blood relation ever could. The security footage from December 2021 captured a moment of pure gratitude. A dying woman thanking the person who made her years bearable. Nathan and Cassandra saw that footage and twisted it into evidence of wrongdoing. But the only wrongdoing was their own, their neglect, their selfishness, their greed. And when that footage was shown in court during their murder trial, the truth was undeniable. They killed Melody not because she did something wrong. They killed her because she did everything right and they couldn't stand it. They killed her because they had 4 weeks before she received the money. 4 weeks before their last chance disappeared. And in their desperation, they made a decision that destroyed their lives for nothing. Melody Harper is buried in a small cemetery outside Jackson. Her grave overlooks the mountains, the Teton Range where her body was found. Her sister visits often. So do former patients' families, people whose loved ones Melody cared for over the years. They leave flowers, notes. One note left by a woman whose father Melody cared for in 2020 reads simply, "You gave my father dignity. Thank you." That's who Melody was. That's what she did. And that's why Margaret Whitmore left her a fortune. Not because of manipulation, because of love. The kind of love that shows up every week for 19 years, even when no one's watching, even when no one else cares. Nathan and Cassandra will spend the rest of their lives in prison. Knowing they destroyed themselves over money they were never entitled to. Knowing they killed a woman whose only crime was being there when they weren't. And knowing that if they just visited their mother more than 55 times in 19 years, none of this would have happened. If they'd been present even a fraction as much as Melody was, their mother might have left them everything. But they weren't. Melody was, and that made all the difference. What do you think about this case? Did the children get what they deserved? Let us know in the comments below. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share powerful true crime stories like this one every week. Don't forget to like and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message about family, loyalty, and the consequences of greed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.